Max, welcome to the show.
Tom, thanks for having me.
So, Max is the founder of Unmuted, B2B SaaS marketing agency based in Amsterdam. And what we plan to cover today is an overview of how Max has built the company. And to do this, I'd love to kind of dip into roughly 6 to 7 different areas like sales, finance, marketing, positioning, operations, etc. So, Max, does that sound good to you?
Sounds like a plan, Tom. I'm excited for this episode.
Amazing. So let's kick off. Well, actually, I have a question that I would love to ask you first is, as a founder of the company, roughly how much time do you spend at the moment, like doing the B2B marketing for the clients versus building the company?
So it has been different in different phases of the company, right? So early days, I was doing it. I was doing everything. I was the company. I was the consultant. Essentially, even when I started hiring my first sort of team members, I had to be working with them side by side, basically every day of the week, um, just to get the job done and deliver the quality that I'm promising during the sales process, and the things that our clients expect from us. But at some point, and I started hiring senior marketers early on, where you see most agency founders, they start with like interns and juniors because that gives them the idea of scale, but definitely doesn't, in my opinion. I started hiring seniors early on, and they were very capable of picking up the work themselves and figuring out what to prioritize. So right now, I don't do much client work. Sometimes I'm strategically involved, or I check in with a few of our bigger clients a little bit more frequently. But the day to day, I don't do anything client work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes total sense. And that is a real decision, like how experienced you want the people that you bring into the team to be. I think that the Refined Labs model, that's where I first heard of this, like hiring like super senior, like best in class marketers, which obviously just makes your job as a founder much easier, but then would presumably mean you have to go for a slightly higher price point in your services.
that's correct. I mean, we've started building a brand from day one, and I guess like here in the Netherlands, we focus mostly on working with Dutch companies, and I think there's about maybe 5,000 marketing agencies here in the Netherlands, maybe 10,000. I don't know if you count freelancers as well. So that's who you're competing with. But what all those companies and agencies don't do well, in my opinion, is that they don't build a brand for themselves. Building a brand and taking a stance, sort of who you are for and what you believe in, it really helps you position yourself and sort of increase the value perception of your firm. So it allows you to attract better jobs, better customers who are willing to spend more, take marketing more seriously, faster. And then yeah, that's obviously what you need to be able to hire those senior marketers. And then it keeps going because you have the good team members who deliver the great work, and then your cases start to improve, and then you can work your way up from there, even if you started high, sort of already.
So let's talk about this brand and positioning, because what I love about what you guys are doing is that you have the niche, obviously B2B SaaS, and then you also have the Dutch market. So we're like at the intersection of these two niches, which I think is awesome. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, very conscious. So as you mentioned, yes, we sort of focused on the B2B SaaS industry, and then within B2B SaaS, we sort of distinguish vertical products and horizontal products. We only work with vertical products, so the ones that solve some sort of critical business issue with their solution, and typically they charge like a high price for that solution, and then typically there's a long buying journey involved, which means you need to sort of stay top of mind for a very long period of time. That requires a different type of marketing, strategic marketing, than with horizontal products like Miro. They typically become more famous, need more sort of virality and super organic growth strategies. Where in our space, you need more like ABM, demand gen, thought leadership, those types of things. So we picked that side of B2B SaaS, so the vertical one. And then there's like 20 different sort of check boxes or boxes to tick in order to fit our ICP criteria. And up until this point, and we are sort of slowly opening up opportunities to work with us also from international organizations, so outside of the Netherlands. But up until this point, I decided I wanted to work with Dutch companies only, because working in an agency as a consultant, you work for a bunch of different organizations and you continuously have to switch context. Now I'm doing marketing for this company with this ICP. Now I'm doing marketing for this company with this ICP and this product. And the more context switching involved in the work as a consultant, the more difficult it becomes. So our consultants typically work with 3 or 4 companies at the same time. I've heard marketing agencies where sort of the strategic marketing generalist person has to work with 10 different companies. It is too much. It's too much context switching. And that's also why I decided to only work up until this point with Dutch companies, because at least we have a sort of uniform cultural communication vibe relationship with our clients, because it's all very similar, like how we do business here in the Netherlands, even though a lot of the people that we speak with aren't Dutch, but they work in a Dutch company with Dutch company culture, and it makes it easier for us.
Got it. So I think the first one you're making is that actually you're even more niche than I was describing. You're like vertical B2B SaaS.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense about context switching and why you just focus on Dutch speaking for now. So out of the, let's say, the 5,000 marketing agencies in Holland, with your niching down, there's probably like 5 competitors, would you say? Like, do you have a good idea of that number?
I think the number is even smaller. There's maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 that are sometimes in the same buying process as we are with our clients. In many cases, there's not a different agency involved. It's just us. We're talking with this company. They want to work with us. And then it's more about, okay, do we have availability and can they afford it? But yeah, in some cases, there's another agency or there's maybe a freelancer, and then the freelancer has like 2 or 3 like really good other freelancers, and that could be a way. And an alternative route could be to hire the big shot head of marketing or VP marketing, and then that person needs to start hiring. But typically that takes too long for them. And they want that sort of outsider to sort of break through their internal mess. And that's something that that we as an agency can always do best. So yeah, it's very small.
I get a lot of people like asking me how to start a business, and the thing that I always think about, and not always say actually, if you just have to be better, like the way you make it work is just be better than the other people you're competing against. And so there's 2 ways to do that, I think, is A, you just get good, and then B, you shrink who you're competing against. So it's actually not that hard to win. And so
Yeah.
it seems like you've done that very well. But for the second part of that, like getting good, how did you, because obviously the initial like marketing expertise and strategies would have come from you. And I know your background is actually in sales. So how did you develop this like earlier expertise?
Yeah. So I did a bit of sales early in my career. I was always wanted to do marketing, and sales was just for me a way to at least like start a job and start a career and gain some experience. My background is working for pretty small startups, like 10, 20, 30, 40 type of like people type of companies. So pretty small, limited resources. But as you know, every startup is super ambitious, right? They want to aim for the moon, stuff like that. They need to grow, want to become like this 100 billion or 100 million company. But they don't have the budget to advertise on TV or billboards or whatever. And it also doesn't make sense because they're B2B. And because I've always been quite restricted on budget, I had to find ways in creativity. And one way for me to figure out what works was to sort of go deep in American communities, follow American marketers. I signed up for every sort of American SaaS tool you can imagine. And I started sort of reverse engineering the stuff that they were sort of sending me in retargeting ads and like onboarding emails and SDR sort of nudges. And it became some sort of hobby for me to figure out all these sort of growth engines of these SaaS companies. And it allowed me to spot trends and figure out things that might also be relevant for the company that I was working for. So those were my early experiments. And then I saw success with that. And that's just something that I've always sort of personally cultivated, just to go out there, follow people who are actually doing the work and try to see patterns and then take something out of it and turn it into your own approach.
Yeah, especially if like the in-house marketing people you're working with, e.g. your clients, are not like aware or don't follow these US trends, you're just gonna sound like a wizard.
Yes, sometimes. So I was, it's a bit of a mixed feeling. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, great. This is sort of an easy win, right? I present these and these new tactics or these and these strategies or like ways of thinking about marketing, and it blows their mind. They're like, this is amazing, Max. Thanks so much for sharing. This is so inspiring. And I'm like, well, yeah, but this is something that I've been reading for the last 3 months on my newsfeed. Like, it's free information. It's nothing new here. But for them, it is. So it's super valuable for them. On the other hand, I also always try to sort of send over the people that I currently follow to the internal marketers at the companies that we work with, because we much rather have them also sort of accelerate their mindset and development of their mindset internally. So we're fully aligned on the type of marketing that we like to execute. But of course, we always have stakeholders, right? They also still need to sort of approve and understand that why we are doing these things. Because if they don't understand the stuff that we want them to do, because we know it will help them grow, then they're going to ask the wrong questions, like where are the leads, or like what's the CPL, or how many MQLs, and then we're having the wrong conversation. If you're having the wrong conversation, it goes south real quick. Yeah,
That makes sense. If you're educating them, you're probably improving your margin because you don't have to spend loads of time convincing them to do this stuff.
yeah. Uh, Sometimes okay, they take over stuff that we sort of enjoyed doing for them, but I'm always super down to share sort of our playbooks, hand it over, provide a quick training, and then they can take it over, because it frees up our sort of operational time in marketing execution for R&D, experimentation. And I think definitely an agency, an outsider, is most valuable in that sort of R&D role, rather than sending out the newsletter every month, right? So that's something that at some point somebody internally should be able to do. This is a very easy experiment, of course, but example, of course, but you get the point.
Agreed. So we've covered like the early stage entrepreneurship thing, bit of brand and positioning. Now I want to shift to marketing. And one of the things I found on your site that I thought was absolutely genius is the URL is in Dutch, but we'll link to it below. It's essentially like almost a pricing page, or like the sign up page, and it shows the number of slots available in the coming months, and then you have to apply to have one of the slots, which is epic. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, you think it's epic? Like, haven't you seen it before, or
I don't think so.
no? Um, I think I've sort of, it's a concept that I've learned from these sort of cohort based things that Reforge used to do. You know Reforge, right?
Yeah.
The courses for tech people. So when I was working internally at a company, I was always like super impressed with all the stuff that Brian Balfour was putting out. I was reading all his sort of free content, his newsletters, his blog posts, etc. I really wanted to do the sort of Reforge course like early on, but I didn't have the budget. Manager didn't approve it, whatever. But I was on their email list, and what I noticed is that they always sort of announced, saying like, "Hey, we got a new cohort, like a new batch coming up. Pre-sign up now. You will be notified when it drops." Like almost like Supreme clothing, drop the clothing, and then boom, everybody buys. So that sort of scarcity, it did something for me. And then when I was designing our website, or wireframing the website, and also coming up with like the service that we wanted to provide, it was like, I want to make things very clear how we work and when we start with a company, and I want every company to go through the same cycle with us, because again, it's easier to process for ourselves who are involved in the delivery of the service. So I wanted every client to start in the first week of the month, because it just makes it easier. Like, how do contracts even run? If you start mid-month, oh, this contract starts mid-month. Okay, when does it end? So every contract with us, it starts on the first day of the month, and we do the kickoff somewhere in the first week of the month. So it means if somebody wants to work with us and they give us the green light in the second week of the month, they just have to wait a few weeks. It's fine. And then I took that concept and turned it into this page. And then what I'm now seeing is that people reach out to us and asking like, "Hey, I see there's only one spot available. can we talk? Like, we can be quick. What's possible? Can we make a reservation? And that's so cool.
Yeah, and what I think is clever here is that most agencies do have that scarcity. They just don't communicate it. And so simply just showing the world that you can only take 2 clients per month will probably increase the conversion rate. So I think this is absolutely awesome.
I would definitely think so. Like, wouldn't this concept work for your business as well, Tom?
It absolutely would. And I was
Right?
literally thinking we should adding to my to-do list to get the
But
designer to develop the webpage.
but it could already be like a small sort of sentence saying like, hey, we only accept X amount of clients per quarter. Like, claim your spot like sooner than later, something like that. It
Yeah,
could
yeah.
already be
So
enough.
you can start very lean, and
Like
and
super
then
small experiment, and then like next quarter, like when somebody mentions it during a sales conversation, because they are going to mention it because they read it, they're like, oh yeah, like do you guys still have availability? Then you know that this is a big factor for them, and then you can expand on the idea.
totally agree.
Cool.
Let's talk about other things you guys are doing in marketing. I found a headline generator, so unmuted.com/headline generator. How are the leads?
To be honest, not great, and also only a handful up until this point. We had the idea before ChatGPT, and then we didn't execute on it, and then ChatGPT came, and they were like, okay, but now it's even cooler to get like a non-ChatGPT sort of handwritten headline, and then we might be able to get like these B2B SaaS companies to sort of share their website, and then within 2 days our copywriters like worked some magic. We've done it a few times. Literally, like out of the 5 times that we did it, like one time we got a thank you literally from them, 3 times like fully ghosted, and like one time some sort of weird follow-up question. I was like, who are these people who are like getting this free help and not even saying thanks or something? So we're not promoting it. Some people discover it. We actually got one request the other day from a company that's like tier one ICP for us. So let's see how that goes. But I'm not super excited about the tactic.
Got it. And
Yeah.
is it you who's like the almost like head of marketing, like defining these ideas and then having other people implement them, or do you have someone in the team for this?
So you could argue that indeed I'm the head of marketing at Unmuted. I love doing marketing for Unmuted. It's my favorite activity during the week. I definitely also carve out quite a substantial amount of time per week to spend on sort of marketing project or some sort of strategic commercial project for Unmuted, because I genuinely enjoy doing it. But I really try to create a culture where people feel safe to come up with ideas and just go with it themselves without asking for permission. So almost every team member here at Muted posts on LinkedIn with some sort of frequency. A few of them, they post basically daily, which is great. Ranging from sort of thought leadership, sharing knowledge about their job, to funny memes and other company promo. And it definitely helps sort of create that buzz, but it also helps sort of create that feedback like, hey, interesting, you posted about this, engagement goes well. What should we do with it next? Like maybe discuss it in our podcast or do something else. So I definitely try to cultivate sort of that feeling of safety so people can execute on their own marketing ideas. But like the bigger ones, typically they come mostly from me.
So if I'm in your team and I'm like, I want to spend 2 hours, I want to spend 25% of my time working on this marketing idea, I think it's going to work really well for us. You would presumably review that idea and then sign it off if you thought it was a good investment?
Yeah, I think I would be very excited to hear the idea first. I might have an opinion. I might say just yeah, go for it. If you believe in it, that's fine. There's always like, so obviously we have some OKRs and some goals, like how many sort of time team members should dedicate to client work, but it's a lot, like a whole lot less than average in marketing agencies. So average marketing agencies, I think they need to work like 32 hours per week at least on billable work for their clients. For us, it's somewhere in between 20 to 25. So it's a lot less. And then I'm pretty sure that all the sort of agency revenue people would now like go at me saying like, hey, you're wasting money, et cetera, et cetera. But I really believe that we need that sort of buffer, that bandwidth that allows creativity, that allows going for a walk or stare out the window. And then you could have that sort of epiphany moment, which is so much more valuable than just writing another email or writing another landing page copy or stuff like that. So there's always enough time to do creative projects that don't need an ROI from day one.
Well, let's move on to sales. Who's currently doing this in the business?
Me.
Okay, so head of sales and head of marketing.
I'm the wearer of many hats.
And so people come through that page on the site, they apply for a slot in a specific month. And then I presume the next step is a call with you.
Yeah, correct.
And
So
then maybe another call, and then you
yeah,
sign them.
yeah, pretty short sales cycle. It's actually quite funny. So I try to post quite frequently on LinkedIn, like yourself. Pretty sure it helps you grow your business. I know for sure it helps me grow my business. But not only that, I think it also really helps shortening the sales cycle and increasing the win rate. And I literally had the weirdest realization the other day on a first sales call, like an intro call. So they did a request on the website. I planned a call with them. I went into the call. And normally I just immediately start firing questions at them to make sure that they are an ICP fit. And then when I know that they're an ICP fit and I know where they're currently at and where they need to go, I can create my proposal, send it to them. And then within a week, typically I have a green light or no, or it turns into some sort of long ass process because the company is big. But that's it typically goes quite fast. And the other day, I went into the call. I started firing questions. And at some point, the guy was like, wait, who are you? I was like, and then I asked him, like, how did you hear about us? He was like, yeah, we just looked on Google. I was like, okay, so you haven't seen me before on LinkedIn, like 99% of the people I talk to on these calls have. So normally I don't have to introduce myself because people feel like they already know me. And this person just randomly found us on Google, and that's typically not our ICP. So yeah, we didn't end up doing business.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally agree with you on the LinkedIn point. If basically the more time someone has spent consuming your content before you jump on a sales call with them, the higher the close rate for sure.
I mean, don't you sometimes think I want to work with this company and I could reach out to them, but you just don't because you think they might reach out to you?
As in, I have somebody that I think could work with Fame,
Yeah.
and instead of me doing outbound, I would just wait for them to come inbound.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's ever. We don't really do any outbound.
You don't do outbound, or
No, we
no,
have
we
tried
also
it
not,
before.
like zero. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
I think it can have a brand impact, and I think it's harder and harder to pull off.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Okay, so we're head of sales. Let's shift to operations. I'd love to know if you're happy to share like the rough like structure of a client team. Maybe it's just that one consultant working with them with your strategic input.
Sure. So I think from a very early beginning of the company, we have been heavily process first, not project first. So we only have retainer clients, so always ongoing. So we don't do sort of isolated projects like, hey, could you do our LinkedIn ads, or could you just create a few blogs? We'll just say no, we won't do it because it won't work. It's B2B. We need to like really cut through the noise, and it takes quite a lot of stuff to achieve it. So that's our vision. And then we have this whole sort of agile way of working in sprints. We have biweekly meetings with clients. We always prepare. There's a strict agenda. There's always a QBR every quarter. There's a kickoff. There's a messaging workshop. There's all these elements involved that we always walk through, and how we make sure that marketing is moving in the right direction. Every client gets the whole package. Some clients get more because they just pay more. And then some clients, they pay a lot more because they want to achieve more. And then typically my involvement could sort of also be part of that collaboration. But typically I'm not involved other than sort of strategically on the background, or as like
So
a
you charge
coach.
more. So if they're like, we want Max to be involved, you would just charge them more.
Yes and no. So we always charge more for strategy work. And typically when I'm involved, it's always strategy work. So yes, we would charge more. the way it works, and it's also on our website, you work with a demand marketing manager. So that's a generalist marketer who knows strategy, who also sort of works on your advertising campaign, so they actually see the response of the campaigns and of the strategy that they are formulating. So it's not sort of a person with just a big smile on his face and good ways to communicate. No, this person is actually a marketer who is managing the relationship. And this person is being supported by a content marketing manager. That person can work on website content and social content, more and more on social content, of course. Then there's a designer and a video content creator involved. So it's always 4 people who are involved in the collaboration. And the demand marketing manager, so that's the generalist, that person sort of prioritizes what initiative is being executed when. So this month we're doing more video work, that one month we're doing more social work, that month we're doing more design work, and that's typically how it works.
Got it. So there's always a team of 4
Yeah.
with a generalist and then the content person, video
Content,
person,
creative. Yeah.
Creative. Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I assume you have your like list of B2B marketing strategies that generalist is reviewing and then choosing which to implement when.
Yes. So at the end of the day, and I love talking about strategy, and it can be so deep, but I always like to make it sort of as simple as possible. So yes, the sort of demand generation strategy is still, in my opinion, the strategy for B2B SaaS companies with a vertical product. Why? Because most people that are in your ICP that have the problems that you can solve, they don't wake up with clear thoughts that are aligned with what your product does, right? They think in their problems and they think in solutions that they already know, which could be Excel, which could be a consultant, which could be hiring a person, which could be ignoring the problem, which could be a bunch of things, but typically they have no clue that there's some sort of enterprise software out there that magically solves this problem, only if you pay maybe 100,000 euros to buy the software. So you need to make sure that they know of the existence of your software. And that's the whole strategy. Make sure that the people that should buy your software know that your solution exists and that they become a fan of your brand. And we can sort of make that whole strategy like super complex and come up with a bunch of different ways to turn it into an 80-page slide deck. But this is what you have to do. You have to take that proposition, turn it into content, and make sure that it gets exposed to your target audience as frequently and efficiently as possible. Would you agree?
That's a nice way of summarizing how to do B2B marketing. I just wrote down, we're going to create a snippet at 28 minutes of Max's high-level view of B2B marketing. Final question about finance. Is this also you? Like, are you the person who's reviewing the numbers at the end of the month and then tweaking how you work to optimize them?
So early in my career, I worked for a startup. They were like very nice entrepreneurs. They were very open in the way they ran their business. The CFO, he stood in front of the team every month with the P&L on screen, with the whiteboard and the marker, and he said, okay, what do you think? What should we put here in forecast? Okay, if you put that here, what do you think needs to happen? So at a very young age, I started understanding the concept of a P&L and of a forecast and how to model these things and what goes where. So that's just me being lucky, being at the right place at the right time early on in my career, I guess. So for the first couple of years, I did the whole finance thing myself. Of course, I have an accountant. They help with all the tech stuff. We have a lot of that here in the Netherlands. But most of the finance stuff I mostly did myself. So we do keep track of our time. That's something that the consultants do. We have created this whole model where we throw that time tracking data in 2 times per week. We've added a few metrics in there, essentially all the retainer contracts that we have with our clients. And then it calculates where we are in the month and how fast we are going compared to that commitment that we have with our clients. And our vision is that we want to deliver a quality as smoothly as possible throughout the month, instead of doing like peak early in the month and then not doing anything, because then clients start thinking like, hey, wait a minute, we were doing all these fun things and now we're not. So we really try to spread that even. So everybody's part of that sort of game, delivery game of sort of, yeah, providing a good quality service for the amount that they pay. Recently, I think a year ago, my brother joined interim 1 day a week as a finance manager. He's super good at all that stuff, and I really love sort of brainstorming with him or chatting about sort of financial situations or challenges or plans that I have in terms of hiring, and to make sure that he also thinks that the decision that I'm making makes sense from a financial point of view. Because at some point, yeah, we're getting bigger, it's getting more serious. It's nice to have that sort of second brain in there, but that's how we do it.
The startup you're at before the CFO running through the P&L, that's absolutely epic. Something that maybe I'll consider doing. And then the other point you make about, I've never thought about, is like, if you are going to do X amount of things for a client in a month or in a quarter, let's just like spread that out to manage like the emotional journey of the client almost. Super makes total
Nice.
sense. And it
Happy
is
to
great
hear.
to have that person to bounce finance stuff around with. So
Oh yeah.
my final question is, as the business grows, do you see yourself doing more of the business building stuff or the B2B marketing stuff?
Business building for sure, but I've always been out there like navigating where marketing is going next, figuring it out. I'm traveling quite a bit. I went to Austin, Texas, and New York earlier this year. Going to Boston next week, just to meet people who are in sort of in the weeds, doing the work, understanding what they are talking about right now, and that's like a really nice source of inspiration for me. And I like to take that back and then reflect on it and share it with my team and see how it could apply to our clients. So that sort of vision development will always be a very important role for me, because it makes sure that we can position ourselves as sort of the leaders or like front row B2B marketing agency. And yeah, I think I will always be doing marketing for Unmuted, but not necessarily for clients other than strategy.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's like a combination of like the visionary and the integrator role from EOS that you're going to be doing as you're going for like building, but also being the person who's setting like the vision.
Yeah, correct.
Makes total sense. Max, I mean, it sounds like an absolutely awesome way of starting a business. As I said, like the really simple way of starting a business, in my opinion, is just like working out how you can be better than everyone else. And it seems like you've done that quite well in the market that you've chosen. So
Appreciate it.
awesome work. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, we're going to link to the site. We'll link to your LinkedIn. Anything else we should link to or mention?
LinkedIn, and definitely check out some of the team members at Muted. Definitely check out Jonas van der Poel. Definitely check out Iris Dings, because they are posting amazing content on LinkedIn as well. So definitely give them a follow.
We will link to them in the show notes. Max,
Awesome.
thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tom.